Hello. We're about to follow my favorite of Sunderland's minor rivers, the Hendon Burn, back towards its source. Actually, we're missing off the last section of the burn, which is completely underground for its final mile or so, with nothing much to see. It originally discharged into the sea, but nowadays, as far as I can tell, it probably ends its journey within the docks somewhere. So, we're starting the journey on Rye Hope Road, adjacent to Backhouse Park, where it makes its first appearance above ground. Or its last, depending on which way you're traveling. There's a dip in the road, just before the old synagogue, which marks the course. Then into Backhouse Park, for our first sight of water. That's where it vanishes from the upper world. Unfortunately, most of the burn through the park has dried out. But here's some film I took back in February, when it was in full flow. There's a little more water in evidence when we reach the other end of the park, and the culvert where the burn enters. The burn crosses the road, just in front of that cream-colored car, and then seems to have a short section above ground in private land. But it's difficult to see. So we pick the course up again in Willow Bank Road. And if that name isn't a dead giveaway, the landscape certainly is. It runs under St. Aidan's Academy, the first of several schools on its route. So we have to detour here. Which gives us the chance to have a look at this interesting building. St. Timothy's Lutheran Church. It's designed to look like the prow of a ship. And just in case you need an extra clue, they've incorporated an anchor. I'm not sure what the significance is. It's not near the sea, and St. Timothy has no obvious maritime connections. In fact, he's patron saint of stomach ailments, which I suppose might include seasickness, but it seems a bit of a long shot. We're in the Ashbrook district. There is no Ashbrook, so I assume the name derives from a Victorian attempt to gentrify the Hendon Burn. The burn crosses the road in the dip you can see ahead. But first, a detour to the Ashbrook Sports Club, rugby and cricket grounds. I think the burn flows underground along the edge of the pitch here, Outside the sports club, there's a manhole cover that probably marks the course. Then across the road at the dip we noted earlier. And up this back lane, where it takes a right-angled turn and enters the grounds of another school. Behind this hedge. Cutting through the back lanes, we come across this unexpected little park. There's the burn, behind that fence. It's now in the grounds of Thornhill Academy. Normally that'd be out of bounds, but today is a Saturday and there's a football match in progress. So in we go. And here it is. This seems to be as far as we can follow it along this section. As I used the football match as an excuse to get in, I suppose I'd better watch a bit of it. I don't know who was playing, but in the 20 or so minutes I watched, the lads in the Celtic shirts scored twice. The Reds never came close. The rising ground to the right is Thornhill, which gives the area, and the school, its name. It's a ridge of high ground that separates the valley of the Hendon Burn from that of the Barnes Burn. Down here. And I think those willows beyond the fence mark the course. It's in the grounds of another school. Now, you'd think this dip in the road marks the course. But it seems you'd be wrong. Next to this school is yet another school, our fourth of the day. The burn seems to cross the playing field, then the road via a less obvious dip. And then it turns along here. The Barnes Hotel roundabout. The burn crosses here, and flows to the right of that house, where we'll be able to pick it up again. But first, an interesting red brick church, consecrated in 1939. St. Nicholas, or as I can't help thinking of it, the Santa Claus Church. The Barnes Hotel, sitting on its island, in the middle of a sea of traffic. Now, if we cut down here, we're on the course of the old Hendon Colliery Railway, of which this old tunnel was part, a quarter of a mile long, although the other end is now lost. It's said that when it was being constructed, work was carried out from both ends simultaneously. Somehow, the two work gangs managed to miss each other in the middle. As a result, the finished tunnel had a dock leg section. The Hendon Burn is behind that fence, as it turns parallel to this pathway. We can catch a glimpse here. The burn has been canalized a bit here, but soon returns to a more natural state. This is a charming little valley, despite the close proximity of traffic. But before long the burn vanishes into a culvert again. Either someone has been doing some exploring, or the rats around here have learned to use a crowbar. On the bank above the culvert, a sculpture. It's called Locomotive. The artist was Lynn Regan. Around here, even the bollards wear hoodies. The burn runs along the bottom there, but it's very overgrown. We'll stick to the path for the moment. We're coming into the park known as Silksworth Lakes, another one reclaimed from old colliery workings. a freshwater mussel shell. The burn now runs through 2 lakes. Here's the first. Water everywhere, but only a trickle to spare for the burn. At this point, we're going to break the journey. Don't forget to join us for part 2.